Take a look at your phone. Think about the last thing you bought, a song you saved, or a news headline you accepted as fact. It is easy to assume these choices were made independently. However, a significant portion of our daily preferences are dictated by the simple volume of repetition we encounter. To test this, we are going to run a familiarity audit. It is an interactive framework designed to reveal the psychological shortcuts your brain uses to navigate a modern environment. You only need 3 things for this. First, your smartphone, a specific recently developed preference, and an objective open mind. This audit provides the specific steps needed to identify when your brain is substituting familiarity for critical evaluation. Step 1 is identifying the exploit. Recall a song or a brand you initially disliked, but eventually found yourself enjoying after seeing or hearing it multiple times. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. This was once a vital survival mechanism. For early humans, a familiar path or fruit was statistically safer than an unknown one. Processing a new stimulus takes significant cognitive effort, but when repeated, the brain requires significantly less energy. Prioritizing efficiency, it converts cognitive ease into a label of quality. The mind categorizes easy as good. In 1968, psychologist Robert Zionk proved this using meaningless symbols. Participants consistently rated the symbols they saw most often as more attractive, despite having no logical reason or context for doing so. Many preferences are the result of the brain choosing the path of least resistance over active evaluation. Step 2 is spotting the push. Open a social media app and scroll for 30 seconds while looking specifically for recurring patterns. We look for the rule of 3. In this mockup, the same sponsored product is integrated into 3 different creator formats. This pattern repeats with trending audio tracks and specific visual filters appearing at least 3 times in a single session. Algorithms and advertisers do not rely on a single interaction. They aim to achieve a specific threshold of exposure that artificially inflates the perception of popularity. Forced repetition over several days makes a foreign concept feel recognizable. That recognition builds a baseline of acceptance that eventually translates into a purchase or an endorsement. Modern feeds engineer your psychological baseline, making the repetitive feel normal and the novel feel acceptable. Step 3 applies this to information. Identify a news headline you've seen frequently this week. Ask if you have verified the underlying data, or if you simply recognize the phrasing. When repetition is applied to ideas, it is called the illusory truth effect. It explains why we tend to believe statements solely because they are frequently repeated in our environment. A false claim may initially be rejected, but repeated exposure gradually wears down the logic filter until accepted as truth. Bot-generated comments exploit this by flooding platforms with identical statements, using sheer volume to overwhelm cognitive defenses. This strategy is effective because it bypasses rational debate. It targets the brain's internal pattern-matching software rather than its capacity for reason. Information thrives when the human brain confuses the frequency of a message with the factual accuracy of its content. Step 4 is the implementation of a specific defense. It is an action required before you share, buy, or adopt a trending opinion. You must execute a deliberate pause at the exact moment a concept feels obviously correct or undeniably better than the alternatives. During that pause, ask this specific question. Do I actually believe this, or have I simply seen it enough times? This pause acts as a manual override. It shifts the brain out of a low-energy processing state and activates the energy-intensive critical thinking required for objective analysis. Introducing this friction disrupts the cycle of passive acceptance. It allows you to reevaluate whether you actually value the information or if you are simply reacting to its familiarity. You have now completed the familiarity audit. You have identified the cognitive shortcut, spotted the algorithmic push, stress-tested the information, and applied the conscious pause. Utilizing this framework creates a buffer between the repetitive stimuli you encounter and your subconscious acceptance of them. Your next step is to apply the conscious pause to the very next advertisement or recurring headline you see today. Our environment is defined by repetition. The goal is to decide which of those repetitions you allow to influence your choices.